Welcome back to another Supercoach Insider podcast. My name is Swiz, here on May the 4th, Star Wars Day. We'll get rid of this so we can get into some Supercoach. But thought let's just throw it out there because we know there's a lot of fans of Supercoach who, do enjoy the Star Wars franchise. So just changing it up here in costume, getting into the theme of the day. And talking about themes, we are into some seriously upgrade season. Not many rookies on the horizon. So we have a bit to talk about with that and in my teams. But before we get into all that, as always, continue to check us out on all our social media platforms. Supercoach Insider 100 and Swiz 26 on the Twitter. And then we've got YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, SoundCloud, all those good channels out there. Splash Vodka is our sponsor. Thank you so much for their ongoing support of this podcast. Please continue to check them out. All right, as we get into round 8, firstly, round 7, 23-61 for me. That was taking Oliver's score. Well done to those who followed Chris with Marshall with his 159. His VC seems to be going off every week, so congrats to him, but still pretty happy with Clary's 134. So that popped me up to I think it was about 1,500 spots, so 2,460 overall, not that far outside that top 100. The funny thing about everything was the week before I was sort of oohing and ahhing between that Tuke Miller and Roberts trade, and over Hawkins and Chase Jones going, do I go something really left field? Went Miller, went Roberts, and obviously I had to trade Miller last week, which was, got in Cornelio and Day. But if I'd kept Hawkins with that massive score and that domination of Essendon where he kicked the 8 and went 184 and Chase Jones is 113, I could have been in contention for top 10. So it's amazing those little 50-50 decisions. At the time you think, no, that worked out all right or could have worked out a lot better than that. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, you look back and go, God damn, what could have been? And even if then, I think I was working out if I'd followed Chris Lim with Marshall and put Wilmot on field, I think I had JVR, and that, it could have been as high as top 5. So a little bit frustrating, but oh well, it didn't cost me the cash anyway, so it would have been really spewing of a decision like that was the difference between winning the 1,000, or in my case, I think the 2,000, because I'm a subscriber to Supercoach Gold. So, but that's the way it goes. Talking to a lot of other people, it seems a lot of teams are falling to the very similar, just a kind of couple little spots difference. Mainly between either some people have the extra defender premium or have that extra midfield premium. A lot of our forward lines are looking very similar. So those that did have those left field moves, like I believe the winner this week had Charlie Curnow. A few had jumped on Hawkins. So that they have been the difference in size. So a couple of people jumped on Petrarca. I know Grimo was huge on him last week, didn't follow through, and then just got that massive 167. So yeah, these are the little differences that are putting people from, inside that top 5,000 to inside that top 500 because it's so close. In any given week, like even the number 1 team, Cullen, with I think it's Best Coast Eagles, he scored 300 points less than I think second this week. So his 500-point lead became a 200-point lead, and now even the top players are all sort of bunched back up together. So plenty of footy to play out. We're only in round 8. And now we're starting to hit some trouble times because these rookies that we've talked about have, either not maturing or if they've fattened to the point where we've got to chop them, and there's just nothing on the horizon. In for my team this week, so there's going to be 3 big changes, and we'll get that up. I don't really want to lose my last boost. I've been tossing and turning about it the whole week, but with the 3 trades, each week available through the buys, and there's 4 weeks of the buys. I'm still a bit comfortable with that. So the big one was, the easy one was Sincotta coming in for Jones. So I know this doesn't match up, but it was Sincotta to Jones, which made 200,000 straight up, and that gave me some options there. Now the Simpson and it was matched up with Ralston, is one that I don't have to do. It's more probably just to get Ralston off field and get that money cash generating again, and the debate on do I need to boost to go Simpson? No. I've looked at maybe Teakle and moving Madden around just to have that ruck cover, and I do kind of like Teakle's job security a little bit more now with Lycett's performances lately in the Sandful. but he doesn't really actually serve many purposes for my on-field at the moment. I know those people have Radigalia. It's not a bad move. I was just chatting to somebody before who's like that. That's 120k made, and they're using that to upgrade. I think they were using for Liam Jones there to get him one of the premiums this week. So the thing that's probably swayed me with Simpson was they did play him when he was fit in that final series during the COVID year up in Queensland, and played him in the grand final against Richmond. So clearly a lot of faith in him, and do recognise that he can serve multiple purposes for him. So either replacing Stengel at the moment, he can get up in the half-forward line, has shown the ability to score Supercoach points and also kick goals, which is important and a little bit easier to do when you're a Geelong player who's going to be in teams that are going to most likely win. So I do see at least a role for him there. There's the potential that other players get dropped out before him, and clearly the coach likes him. Probably the bigger worry there is just his injury history, and that's what's probably got me more concerned, and could probably go down at any time. But we've said that with other players this year as well. So you've got your Tim Englishes that we've talked about. It could go down at any time, and it just hasn't happened. So touch wood. So yeah, that's so Simpson is coming in as much as Teakle. I'm not a big fan of Angwin and that the Giants we've seen with Ralston. They chop and change with those positions. He's been in the system for a couple of years, but he's just not getting enough of the ball as well. And I feel like if it's another bad game, do they make him sub? And we've just seen what's happened with their rookies. So I'm trying to steer clear. Like, he could be fairly solid, and he might play a great game this week and keep going. And there's definitely that possibility. But I think there's more risk compared to Simpson, who the Cats have definitely shown, that he is the best 22 when fit. And as we said, it proved because of that grand final. So Chincotta is your main option, and then it's just what you want to do regarding the premium guy. And for me there, you've got Jack Sinclair sitting there at the moment, and this is my real debate going into this week. So I'm still... It's probably down to two. Like, Jack Steele was the other candidate in. I've looked at him, and I've also looked at Tom Stewart. I really hate not owning Tom Stewart. I think he can definitely go well, but Adelaide have identified that the keys will be going to Stewart this week. Now, will that formulate? How does Stewart handle that? If it does, they said it the week before, he's going to Dacos, and we look what happened. Dacos did score the 72. Now, there were reasons for that, bad turnovers and the injury that Dacos picked up in the game, but at the same time, they did give him attention. So I think the Crows will follow through with that and give Stewart some attention. It's a bit of a weird one. You would think they might have tagged a midfielder, but they do identify Stewart so much of the ball, kind of plays that quarterback role, as much as I keep saying I hate that term. He, takes the intercept mark and sets up from there. So I can see why the Crows are going to do that. So we'll just hold off on Stewart and just fingers crossed he doesn't hurt me too much. So then it comes down to Sinclair for Sicily for me. And it's probably going to be how I feel on the day. Yes, Sinclair's playing North Melbourne. North haven't leaked a huge amount of points to defenders this year. It's been all midfielders. So if Sinclair sort of gets a little bit more up the ground, that could be good for him. Steele and Crouch in there kind of my worries. But yeah, if Sinclair can definitely find a lot of ball against North Melbourne. And yeah, he has shown the ability to have a ceiling. He had that 150 game last year. So I don't think he's going to come out and maybe do that. And with the break even, I think sitting at 97, potentially could still get him next week. Not that big of a price rise. And that's where it's slightly weighing me towards Sicily. He's got the break even of 77. Freo's forward line isn't that great. And, you can see a world where Sicily just zones off all night and takes intercept marks. So that will probably potentially be one. Maybe even it comes to the case of what the weather is over there in Perth, because we know St Kilda and North Melbourne being under a closed roof. I feel like whichever way I go, it's going to be the opposite and it's going to come out. But they're both good picks. And I know there's some people doing the double and trading both of them in. So I like those two better than the Steele pick, just because Steele's break even is 126, and he's just the way he's going this year. And with Crouch next to him, I don't think he's going to go the big 160, 170. And even shown with North Melbourne, though they're leaking points, they've leaked into Petrarca and Neil. You're kind of your more tackling workhorse guy like Oliver and Dunkley. Those sort of players haven't been, they've been still scoring well, but they've been scoring to that 120, 130 mark. So I think Steele probably goes more that, which means you can still pick him up next week at the same price. And I'd rather get one more week of data with Steele. I don't mind the Patrick Cripps pick. People looking at that, he's a bit underpriced. A couple of people have asked me about, your Noah Andersons and Matty Rouse. And as much as I've got a soft spot for Rowley and he's looking really good, the question is, how does his role get affected when Tuke finally comes back? So I don't think there is that long-term role as some of these other guys. So that's kind of just the thoughts around that. Sarong continues to play really well every week, and he's racking up some good scores. I know a couple of people sort of looking at Libera again as that sort of pod. So there are some options there. So I think if you've got Radigalia and you want some good bench cover, could be one of those real left field options. Will help you maybe through the buys and get maybe a 200 price rise on your bench there. Teagle's probably the best of the lot because he's probably got the best security, and with a ruck, he's got the potential to go 80. The only problem is he's going all out for 3 quarters, and he is a sub candidate in that last quarter because he is running out of puff. Just doesn't have the aerobic capacity yet for AFL, but they definitely prefer him in the ruck than what they would Lysett, and then Finlayson and Dixon take over for that last quarter, so it does cap what Teagle can score. And then, Simpson, as we've said. So that I would rank them, Teagle, Simpson, and then Angwin. But it all sort of depends on your cash. So I'm going Fergus Green out. He can potentially be a hold. And I can see people wanting to hold him. But, with that 28's got to cycle out for the next couple of weeks. I've got no problems with people moving him on. With the Liam Jones is another one. It's a warm body, definitely can hold. I know a few people are looking at getting some of these other non-playing rookies off, so I can understand that one as well. But he's pretty well priced out. Nearly would have kept McKenna now because of the with Daniel Rich being out, that's definitely going to help him. But I potentially was looking at moving Wilmot this week, but with Rich gone out of that side and so with Zorko, it's I'll be holding him for at least the time being, and we'll just kind of revisit it next week and see what the situation. With your bench, there's potential for people to loophole quite a few players this week. So I got Wilmot on there with the ability to put Constable. So I'm going to go with Sincotta on the field. I could have had Sincotta on the bench, especially in maybe that forward line and that midfield. But one of the issues is Campbell Chesser is named on the extended bench, so he could be the sub this week, which is good that he could be back. So I've thought about that, but I thought I'm just going to back Sincotta in, and then if Wilmot scores really well, then I'm going to just move Sheasel to the forward line. Mitchell's going to go back, and then I'll just put Constable on field. Mitchell can just sit on the bench, and then Sheasel can come on field. And then obviously Van Rooyen's a possibility there. I could have loopholed him if Wilmot doesn't work out, then there's I can loophole Van Rooyen into Mitchell and via Roberts. So there's plenty of options there with the guys that are missing this week. Captains and vice captains, I really like Timmy Taranto versus West Coast. Tonight's game's a little bit harder unless you own the big four in Cripps, Walsh, Neal, and Dunkley, and it might be one of those sort of games where they all go sort of 120. Then, we've got the Richmond versus West Coast. West Coast are just so undermanned, but then so are Richmond. So Taranto showed last week, we talked about him in the lead up to that game, that Taranto would go well. Now, Dawson obviously went a lot better, but it's a great option. You've got, I'm a bit worried about Stewart. If you own Dangerfield or one of the Geelong forwards, they're always good to chuck the VC on, and then Dawson's naturally an option. Laird's still got that injury concern, so I wouldn't be VCing him in. And then you go into Clary and Bont, which are the obvious two there. So the hard thing is it's literally one game after another. So for Taranto, it's pretty well. If he goes well, I've got to do it straight after the game, so I don't take Clary's score. And then the same with Oliver into Bont. The Sunday players, it probably doesn't thrill me as much. St Kilda would be good options against North. I think that's a reliable backup, but it's a hard one to know which one's how well Steele or Sinclair, but I don't think you're going to be burnt too much if that is your backup option. Maybe not as much about Marshall versus North, though, it's a tough one because, we saw what Marshall can do last week, but the North big men, they actually do have a few options down there. So, that's kind of what I'm thinking there with my cap. Well, that's what I'll be looking at anyway. I've since Supercoach opened last week, I've had Taranto VC into Oliver. And then, looking just through my side, so Dawson, Dacos, Sinclair, Day, Sheasel, and then if you want to add Zebors, that 6 defender, very similar. A lot of people's teams, some have Sicily, a lot have Stewart, but a lot of defences people have been showing me have been looking pretty complete with that. And then people thinking if sort of Sheasel taps out at some point, or prices out, they'll get to one of those other guys. But at the moment, he's doing extremely well and doesn't need to go anywhere. Forward lines, a lot of people are very similar in the same situation. Taranto, Dunkley, Rosie. I've got Canelio and Goulden sitting in that midfield at the moment. And let's call Chandler F6, who's just continuing to tick on and making cash against the Suns. Hopefully he can, find another 20 touches and kick another couple goals and, be a bit like Sheasel, a really good F6 option there. Rucks, most people in a comfortable situation there, except for if you're looking to what you're doing with Grundy. If you've still got him, where we've talked about Max Gorn in the past, Darcy, but there's rumours about injuries and stuff like that, so that potentially something to watch. But Darcy's flying. If you don't have English, he's been the obvious one to sort of target. So, but English and Marshall are looking fairly safe at the moment with Darcy, and then the cheap option Gorn there, and then your midfield. So most people are on the Bont Clary train, and then just who's your third. There's a few people floating around with value. If you've still got Hopper, he's still got this week to prove himself against the Eagles. If he was to have another poor week, then he'll be a trade target out next week. Ashcroft with that 103, fantastic, because it really restarts his cash and keeps him at least to the buys, and we'll revisit it there. And if you've got the GOAT, unfortunately, Setterfield looks like he needs to head to the slaughter yards. I put up a nice little funny post from Twitter from... I'm actually trying to forget I forgot who the person was, but they were on Centre Bounce the other day, and one of the viewers definitely, and actually I might even chase it up because it was definitely of Jonas Goat. So thank you so much. He's gone. Brad Scott turned the setter beast into the setter chick, and that chick is going through the grinder this week, and I think that's the case for most people. So, that's where you probably option, if you're not looking at one of these defenders, which are ripe for the picking, then you're looking at one of those midfielders to bring in just to go same for same. But, you've got the option to at least play Sincotta in the midfield if you want a defender. So, that's me at the moment. As I said, most teams are looking very similar. And I think if we can all, probably my goal coming into buys is, kind of keeping with the crowd as much as possible. Nothing too, outlandish, but as we come through that buy time, then I'll probably try to pick up that 1 or 2 pods to then try to propel my team up the ladder. If the goal, if I can get around that top 1,000 around buy time, that's exactly what I'm aiming for. As I've said, everyone's in a different situation. I know a couple of the boys, the Centre Bounce boys, will message me further back, so there's more risks to be taken there, and that's where last week, well done to all the week before those who jumped on Hawkins, and we said about it, if you're further back, that's where you take the risks, because what difference does it make? And then you get rewarded with that 184. All of a sudden, some people found themselves moving up 40, 50,000 places because they were getting that extra 100, 150 points on everyone. So that's where we're at. Apologies that we haven't done the group podcast this week. Ben's been swamped by work, and as you can hear, I'm a little bit under the weather, but we'll get there. So we'll be definitely back next week. Outside of that, happy super coaching. Continue to send in your questions and your messages, and we'll get to... we'll try our best to get through them and help support you guys doing your team. Till then, enjoy the weekend. Happy super coaching. Bye.